Hello, welcome to the F1 Time Portal, a Formula One history podcast started by a couple of friends that love Formula One. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your laser invention host, Luigi. And today we're rating drivers from 1960 for our special series, the Time Portal Championship. So let's go.
Laser, what did you say, Luigi? You're a laser invention.
Yeah, I didn't know how to say
Okay.
The red laser was apparently invented in 1960.
Okay.
So how could I? Do I just say red laser?
Yeah.
That sounds a bit weird, right?
It does. Okay.
I had to give it some context.
Yeah, I expect a bit better from your... Anyway, we'll talk about
harder.
that off air. Okay, so today we have a special guest with us joining for the TP Championship. We have Lyndon Gasking with us. Hi, Lyndon.
G'day guys, awesome. Glad to be here. Thanks
How are
for having
you?
me. Yeah, great.
Looking forward to this?
Yeah,
Bit of fun?
Well, totally random, so I am looking forward to it.
That's good.
Certainly off-piste Formula One.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, and we're righting the wrongs of life here, just so you know.
Yep, yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Luigi keeps saying that we actually are like crowning new Formula One champions through this process. So
Yep, no,
we'll indulge him a little bit.
Yeah.
from all angles.
Well, we already gave 50 to Fangio
We
and
did.
took it away from Farina.
We did,
Yep.
yes.
And by the time people are hearing this, they'll have learned that Moss won 58.
Instead of Hawthorn.
Hawthorn.
Yes.
And did he win 57 as well? I can't recall. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's all
Anyway,
history.
It's all
Yeah.
happening here. Yes.
Yeah.
That big.
So, Lyndon, do you want to tell us how you got into Formula One and what you love about it?
Well, I think like you guys, I think the funny thing here is I grew up in Adelaide in the peak period for Formula One, as far as I'm concerned. So,
Yes.
out of the
Yes.
cars, the greatest track, it was
Yes.
all there. Adelaide was
Mhm.
alive, so.
It
Having,
was.
having been a teenager in that era was absolutely phenomenal. So I think that's where I really got my taste for it. But then growing up with a father that had been heavily involved in Formula One for a few years in his career was definitely what got me, I suppose, the taste for Formula One. At a level of, I suppose, beyond the normal punter. So
Yeah. What did your dad? What was your dad's role? Tell
so
everyone.
So he worked for Repco Brabham in Melbourne. I think a couple of they moved factories a couple of times while he was with them in the engine assembly side of things for Jack Brabham.
Right.
So those couple of world championships, I think he was there working hard on making sure that the power plant was going to do what it was supposed to do.
Fantastic. So he would have had occasion to meet Jack and the other drivers of the Brabham team.
Dad would have, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I've met a couple of the guys from that era. I've met Bob Jane back in the day a couple of times.
Oh,
and
yes.
A few of these sorts of people. It was a very tight knit motor racing community, I think, from what I can work out back in that period. And then sort of digging into the history on this episode, they're extremely tight knit, I think, across the board. So.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. And we're only just getting to when we haven't reached, like in our race reviews, we haven't reached the Repco era for the Brabham team. I think we're just heading into that.
Yep.
So that will be interesting to...
Yeah, well, there's some key people still around, which would be good for that. So I've got my nephew Sterling and my father Michael, whether they get involved with you guys, it'd be good. But there's another couple of sort of key Repco people that it's worth catching.
Oh, that'll be great.
So yeah, I think it's a great thing you're doing. There's definitely an opportunity to have people with more knowledge than I do.
Yes.
Yeah, and the part your father played was awesome because that engine reliability and power was such a point of difference, and it gave Brabham such an edge. So he played a very important part in that success in global and local sporting history. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's definitely something to be proud of, and one of those things for history. It's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a couple of other tough questions before we get started on your rankings. Who's your favourite ever Formula One driver, and who's your favourite Formula One driver still on the grid today?
Yeah, so still on the grid would be Ricciardo. So start there because his attitude and approach and being an Aussie, and I just think he's really Oh well, I'm hoping he gets an opportunity to push on and actually show what he can do. But the underdog story is
Yes.
always one that I think
Yes.
not just me, but a lot of Aussies would appreciate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then one from the past, probably a slightly random one, but Nelson Piquet. So
Oh,
um,
that is random.
yeah, so
Mm.
only because I had a sort of a personal relationship with him for a very short period of time. So life's about moments, and I
It is.
happened to be lucky enough to be in the pits for the 500th Grand Prix in Adelaide, and was sat opposite Nelson Piquet after he'd won the race and was sort of being interviewed, and literally sort of took me under his wing for probably a half an hour, I suppose, and dragged me along to meet Ayrton Senna, and grabbed
Oh,
a photographer and
wow.
grabbed a photo of a photographer and got that signed for me with him, and then introduced me to Alain Prost, and it was a pretty unique, looking
Yes.
back on it, pretty special experience that it'd be hard pressed to not
Yeah.
award my favourite to a man that gave me a
Yeah. Gave you a
fascinating
lot of
insight.
time and
Yeah,
was very
definitely got a
generous,
time.
it seemed. Yeah.
Spot on.
How old were you then, Lyndon, if you don't mind my
Yes,
asking?
definitely. I'll just say teenager.
Okay. We'll
Yeah.
say with teenager.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think like Luigi setting up and you Rosa being in the Grand Prix Club in Adelaide,
Mm.
there was this sense for me as well. Can we create some history here? So that 500th Grand Prix, I'd run around for a couple of weeks before trying to get hold of a tyre, and my mission was to then get an autograph from every one of the drivers. So we then
Oh,
had something
wow.
from the 500th Grand Prix as a memento. But starting with Bob Jane, obviously, who's pretty well knows everyone in the tyre manufacturing space at
Yes.
was that's how I first met Bob. But ultimately, the long story short, the tyres are owned by Formula One. They won't let one out of their sight.
Ah,
And it's
that's
even to this day,
true.
it's a really it's not a simple thing to get a hold of a tyre, particularly as a teenager in Adelaide. So
You know the funny
I
thing
got to
is,
spend lots of time with them, but never actually managed to get the tyre to get it autographed.
Didn't get the signatures. No.
interesting, and I was going to say that that's an awesome story. But having said that, I've been to so many mechanics and places where they've got a Formula One tire on the wall or something. So how did they do it? What did they do?
Yeah, I don't reckon. Well, my guess is that they've got Formula 2 tyres or something else.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a fake. It's a fake, Luigi.
Yeah, they've got the same tyre, but it's not off of Formula
1.
No.
Yeah, fair
They've got
enough.
replicas
Okay.
and all the simulators you see around town these days. So
Fair enough. Okay, Rosa, should we get into the first race of the 1960 season?
Yeah, I just do you want to tell everyone how you and I and Lyndon met?
Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me, Rosa.
It is a bit of a funny story. And I think we're far enough ahead in the future that we're not going to be chased by any officials.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So, Rosa, as many of you may know, this podcast was only launched in 2024. And at the Melbourne Grand Prix, which was March 2024. So it's only March. We're in April now. Was the Grand Prix in March?
Yes, it was the 24th.
Gee, that feels like 6 months ago to me. Anyway, at the Melbourne Grand Prix, Rosa and I came up with a strategy, mainly Rosa. Rosa came up with the idea.
Don't blame me.
Rosa came up with the idea, but I came up with the extreme execution, which was why don't we let the fans of Melbourne, Formula One fans, of course, know about this podcast. So we put these stickers together that just had f1timeportal.com.au in small writing, and we were stickering those. We were putting those stickers everywhere at the Grand Prix.
Yeah,
at least
very good.
At least 2,000 of them.
It was a mammoth guerrilla marketing effort.
Yeah, so Lyndon saw this random guy, i.e. me, putting a sticker on the table he was sitting at, and he was like, "What's this about?" And I told him history of Formula One and all that, and we went from there.
Yeah, very random.
It's great timing, I think.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
Fate,
yeah. And here we are.
Here we are.
So,
and we're catching up last week too, Luigi. So I think connecting with some of the sort of superstars of that era.
Yeah, correct.
That's good.
And because of that connection, I've met up with Spencer and planning on doing a session with Spencer and doing an interview. Spencer, I've mentioned a couple of times in other episodes, he's the 66 and 67 Australian driving champion. And he actually spent time with Jim Clark, Graham Hill, Jack Brabham, Bruce McLaren, all those guys. So it's great to talk to people that were with those people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, excellent
He's
stories.
driven some phenomenal cars for other owners. He's got a lot of stories, Spencer. So he's a funny man.
Yeah,
Very good.
definitely. So we're up to race 1, the Argentinian Grand Prix. So this is a 9-race season, and there's no spoilers here because this episode gets released after the 1960 review season. So we know that Jack Brabham wins this championship pretty much hands down. But does he win it in our hearts?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yep.
Is he the people's champion?
Yeah, is he the people's champion? So I do a very, those of you who know the format, I'll do a very fast race review. It's not meant to be a proper race review. You've got the full episode to listen to that, but it's more of a reminder to us, and then we do our rankings. So the Argentinian Grand Prix, Moss secured a strong pole position in his Lotus, followed by Graham Hill, and this was actually his first drive for BRM, and then Bonnier also in the BRM. Brabham actually had a bad time qualifying 11th. By lap 2, Brabham was already up to 4th place, with Moss moving into the lead. The heat was a big factor in this race, with numerous drivers retiring from heat exhaustion. Graham Hill was out due to exhaustion as well, as was Bonnier, who was actually in the lead due to Moss mechanical issues. Amazingly, McLaren found himself in the lead and he went on to win, with Allison coming second and Moss coming third. Somehow switching cars with Trintignant, and even though the car switching thing was not permitted anymore, it was permitted as long as you didn't get the points for it. But it was still a bit dubious, to be completely honest. And to overlay this whole race review, let's not forget Brabham had dominated the 59 championship. So this was a bit of a quiet race for the defending champ. So, Lyndon, who are your top 3 and why, starting with third?
Okay, well, yeah, starting with third. So this is as random as I could get because I think anyone that's worth their salt is going to go and do a little bit of research on what was going on in 1960 beyond what I could find in text. So where would most people start? I'd like to think I'm representative of most people on this one. YouTube. So what comes up? What comes up on YouTube for the 1960 F1 season is I suppose a synopsis from the Italian History Channel. So of course the whole audio is in Italian.
Okay,
probably slightly easier if you speak Italian, but obviously I don't. So whipping the subtitles onto that one, we roll through and realised that it was a ridiculously hot race. There was a lot of people that came out of that race with exhaustion. So for me, third place came to the person ultimately that seconds the new third, but they feature on the YouTube video in a very short snippet. There's only a couple of drivers that feature. But this guy came through and got 2 splashes. Didn't take the one, but they were literally slowing down the side of the track, big bucket of water, throwing it over the drivers. So I thought that was for third place. For second place, I thought, well, this guy,
can I just say quickly on the Allison thing? Interestingly, that's not a bad pick, to be honest.
Okay.
This was the only points he got for the year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Important. Well, so
I'm very curious about your next pick.
we'll say Gonzalez.
I'm so curious. This is going to be interesting.
So same
Go
again.
on.
So if we roll through the footage on the 1960 Italian History Channel's version of what went on in that season, you'll see Gonzalez come through. It was actually quite hard to track down who was the driver for which numbered car, but anyway, through that process of discovery, it worked out that Gonzalez was the guy that went through, and he only took 1 splash on film versus 2 splashes.
I'm just confused. Was Gonzalez driving? I'm sure he's retired.
Was he?
No,
what are you talking about?
No, I think because this was Argentina, I think he came back for that race.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm just going on a bit of.
No, he did drive
car number, and I think that
I'm just double checking. Yeah.
No, he absolutely did drive.
Fair, cool. And then for me, first place just goes to the hard man that didn't take any splashes. So I didn't see any, and he won the race in what was a lot of heat. So McLaren's got to take it. So
that's a good.
Random.
Yeah, that is deep diving. I like it.
And the deep dive is very interesting because when I look at the grid, there's no Gonzalez in the grid. He must have been unofficial there, like there but not there. Do you get? Oh no, he is there. Sorry, my apologies.
He's absolutely there.
I missed him.
Yes, yes, he's
my
definitely
bad.
there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's impressive.
Yes,
good picks, Lyndon.
Okay, happy.
So, no controversy there, to be honest, other than my own issues of forgetting Gonzalez was there. So I had third place. I put Brabham. I thought he did an amazing start and overall a good race, but he retired. So I thought he would have come third if he'd kept going. And Lyndon, you might find this. And I'm coming in first before Rosa says it.
Yep.
I apparently have a reputation for giving reward to drivers who do good starts.
Okay.
Now, I don't believe that to be 100% the case, but Rosa might have some facts to back that up. I don't know.
I do, lots.
There's a few episodes now to have a bit of history to look back on. So
Yeah. I put Moss as second. He was leading past halfway, and then the typical gremlins of Moss struck. So I thought he was really on track to win this race, but I'm giving him second place to right the wrongs. And McLaren first, race of attrition. He won, albeit lucky, but he won. He was there to take the win, and good on him for that. So over to you, Rosa.
I feel a bit nervous reading mine out. Okay, I've given my third spot, my 4 points I've given to McLaren. It was a good win, but it was in a race with a lot of retirements, and I'm gonna go that he was lucky. But I take Lyndon's point. He got through the race without stopping and without needing a cool down. I gave my 6 points to Brabham. I thought he ran a great race. He got back from 11th to 3rd before his car kind of, let him down. And then I couldn't decide. I also have one little bias that I like to give drivers points if they show really good sportsmanship or, do things for the sake of the team. And I split my number 1 points between Moss and Trintignant. So I gave Moss 4 points because just a great drive from lap 64 to get back to 3rd. And then Trintignant, I gave him 4 points because he ended up giving up his car to Moss to finish 3rd. So I thought that was a pretty good, gesture.
I'm not a big fan of that.
That's sportsmanship.
Because Moss is probably the one that did the work to get it up.
Well, he wouldn't have been able to do the work without Trintignant giving him his car. I know we always say this, that he probably didn't have a choice, but we have seen drivers refuse to do that. So
yeah, and it's interesting that Rosa, you and I have put Brabham in there. I gave Brabham 3rd, and you gave Brabham second, and Lyndon, who has the Brabham connections,
I know
doesn't rate him. Not good enough for Lyndon. That's all he can say.
I've taken the whole season into account and realised that obviously he's got the season, so we've got to give
he's sharing his love around.
Yeah, love around while we can and get something random there to kick it off.
That's right.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, so at the end of the first race, we have McLaren in the lead on 20 points, Moss second, Moss and Brabham joint second on 10, and Gonzalez on 6 points.
I don't know if we're going to see Gonzalez again, but we really loved Gonzalez. I had a soft spot for Gonzalez.
Yeah, we
really
did in the early 50s,
and mid. So up to race 2, the Monaco Grand Prix. So Surtees made his debut in the Lotus. Very exciting time. Ferrari debuted their rear-engined car. So finally Enzo read the writing on the wall, because he was very stubbornly against that for a long time. He doesn't want to follow the garagistas with their rear-engined fancy cars. Moss got pole, followed by Brabham and Brooks. Bonnier took a surprising lead from 5th at the start, but due to brake problems fell back to 17th. He fell back on lap 17. Then Moss took the lead. Rain started, and Brabham took the lead from Moss. But then on lap 41, gearbox issues caused him to hit a wall. So Moss was back in the front. Bonnier was in second. So they were staying up there, those two guys. By lap 60 out of 100, Moss has an engine issue, which was fixed in the pits, but he fell back to second place behind Bonnier. But he repassed Bonnier. Then Bonnier retired. There were only 4 cars left. And this is when Brabham and Gurney and Bonnier got back in the race to grab some free points because their cars had retired. But Brabham was disqualified for getting outside help. So Moss wins, McLaren comes second, Hill third, and Brooks fourth. So Lyndon, your top 3 and why?
Yeah, so same thing, and I think part of this comes back to the amazing wonders of YouTube. But so Brabham, it wasn't his fault that he only had 4 gears and got back rolling. So I've got him in third versus his disqualification. And then second, I've got Moss because I'm figuring with all that happened throughout that race, really ultimately that amount of grit needs to be rewarded. So got to give him second. But then first for me was Phil Hill because there's some footage of this 360 spin that he did to get his car rolling back around again on one of the very famous corners there at Monaco, and it's just look spectacular. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
We'll love to see drivers do that sort of thing. So same thing again for a completely random reason, but for the beauty of the controlled spin, Phil Hill.
That's excellent research, by the way, and very impressive. I've got to look that up because I haven't seen that.
Yeah, no, you'll appreciate it.
Yeah,
You may agree with me on that one.
Yeah, and Phil Hill doesn't have the longest career after this, so after some success, which is coming. But so it's good to have him be recognised for some awesomeness. So yeah. Okay, so I had for my top three, I had McLaren as third. Solid result, getting second place, despite all the retirements. So I just the tip of the hat. I put Bonnier as second because he was in the running for most of the race. I don't think he was going to win this race if he didn't have his retirement issue, but he would have come second in my opinion. So I'm putting him in where he should have been. And Moss, he really dominated the race, in my opinion, despite the high attrition, and he had a bit of an up and down race despite the challenges. So, like Lyndon said, the grit was there, and I gave him first place.
Yeah, I went similar to both of you. I think a little bit. I took a little bit of Lyndon's and a little bit of Luigi's. Although I do these things blind, I didn't look at anyone's. But yes, I gave my third spot to Phil Hill as well. I just thought he raced a really good race in a lesser car. He was 10th and then came in third. And yeah, he had a spin and he was just able to get back in the race. So I thought that was really good. McLaren got my second spot, 11th to second. Solid driving, and then Moss. I do have a soft spot for Moss, so but I think
it doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much to give him my top points. But look, he won the race despite the car issues he was having, and I think this race was even wet, Luigi, wasn't it? And I think he even increased his lead in the wet. It just showed the great skill that he had as a driver in the wet.
Yeah, and I was going to mention for the listeners that we all pick our picks separately to one another.
Yes.
So it's a surprise to see them when they do get revealed, even to us.
Okay, so at the end of race 2, we have Moss in the lead on 32, McLaren second on 30, and Brabham in third on 14.
Interesting, because we know Brabham wins this in real life, and he's not really doing it so far.
Well, in the real life championship, he wouldn't have been up there either because
that's right.
He wouldn't have done much he hasn't finished in the top. Oh, well, he hasn't won a race yet in the 2 races. So
his time will come.
Yes,
it's coming.
Yes,
yeah. So we're at the Dutch Grand Prix. This is race 3 out of 9. So we have the debut of Jim Clark, who was actually filling in for John Surtees, who made the debut in the previous race. So it's interesting to have 2 future champions, one after the other, making their debuts. Moss got pole position. Brabham was in second. Ferrari had a bit of a disaster, qualifying 12th, 13th and 15th. At race start, Brabham takes the lead and he and Moss pull away from the rest. Then the Moss gremlins appear with a concrete marker, a concrete tile, I think it was.
Yeah, concrete marker tile.
A concrete marker tile smashed Moss's front wheel and burst his tyre. After repairs, Moss rejoined in 12th place. So Clark moved up to 4th, having qualified in 12th, but he retired due to transmission issues. Moss did an amazing comeback drive and charged back up to 3rd place, even unlapping himself from Brabham. So over to you, Lyndon, for your top 3.
Yeah, well, so coming in third, I think leading straight off there was Moss. A great comeback and very worthy third in my books.
Yeah. Okay.
And then second, I think when you introduced me what you were doing with this sort of new TP World Championship, I took quite literally that you said it's going to be quite random. There's all sorts of
yes.
So don't be afraid to throw crazy things in there.
There's no rules.
Okay.
Apparently, there's no rules. It doesn't mean we won't complain though.
You can complain about this one, if you like. There's a pretty solid Adelaide connection to this one with old Jimmy Barnes. So I gave Jimmy Barnes second. He gets the point. Ultimately, that's how we introduced your audience to him, and there ain't no second prize. So
but you're saying he was born around this time.
Yeah,
I think at least has to
no.
be the date of the race. Come on.
I think he's probably a few years out, but anyway.
A few years.
Where to get something in there to, be worthy.
Okay, it's a surprise. It's a surprise pick. I'll give you that.
I like it. I like the Adelaide connection. It's an Adelaide and F1 connection. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm figuring he hasn't featured anywhere else, and probably won't.
No,
anywhere else.
He probably won't. No.
And then Brabham, clear win with some luck. So that's my top three.
Okay, my third place I had Clark, amazing debut, and actually should have come third or better in my opinion. So a good start for Clark in his racing career. Second place I had Brabham. He won the race and led from start to finish. And in my opinion, I put Moss as first. He was the true winner. He had an amazing comeback drive despite the challenges, and I'm giving him the credit that I think he just deserves.
Ooh, Luigi, where do I start?
Come on, it's your favourite guy. Come on, you can't be challenging that, Rosa. You should be happy that I've done that.
Clark.
Oh, come on, he got fourth place on his debut.
Oh, okay. No, he retired, didn't he?
Did he retire?
Yes, he retired.
Oh, but he was there though. He was there.
Oh.
Come on, I'm acknowledging greatness.
How can Brabham not get top spot?
Because Moss is the true winner in my heart.
Well, I also did something a little bit weird here. I gave my third spot to Von Trips. I think he qualified 15th. And he got to 5th in a Lemon Ferrari. I'm sad.
That's right. They qualified.
They
awful,
qualified badly.
When you say Lemon Ferrari, can you unpack that a little bit further for me?
It was a bad Ferrari. It wasn't lemon coloured.
Okay,
it just wasn't performing very well. I don't think they brought their best game to this race. So look, to get that Ferrari into 5th, I thought was quite a good effort. I gave Moss my second place. Yep, same as Luigi. He should have won. Great comeback drive from 12th to 3rd. And I actually split. I was going to give Brabham the full marks for coming first, but I also had to acknowledge that it was the concrete marker tile that Brabham's car lifted off the track that went and smashed Moss's front wheel. So
did they say that? Did they say it was Brabham's car that did it? How would they have known that?
I don't know. It says it. It says it in lots of books.
Wow.
So I gave them 4 points each.
This reminds me, in future TP episodes, I've got a section. I've created a new one. You may have not seen it yet, Rosa. I've got my 1, 2, 3, and then I've got in the 4th position, I put in negative point, but it's just a moral negative point, and I think I would have given the concrete marker tile. But what you're doing is having your cake and eating it too.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. and you're punishing Brabham for it by taking away points from him.
I know.
You've gone 4-4. You've given 4 points to Brabham, 4 points to the concrete marker tile. You could have gone 6-2.
I could have.
You know what I mean?
I could have. I realise I may have miscalculated.
Because that concrete marker tile is not winning the championship.
No. I might have to add it to Brabham's score at the end if things get really dicey. We'll see.
Yeah, we can't change it. You know the rules.
I know the rules. Yeah.
just like Jimmy Barnes is not going to get any more points either.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of race 3, we have Moss on 50, Brabham on 32, and McLaren on 30.
Okay. Brabham better get his skates on because we're up to race 4 and there's only 9 races this year. So come on, Brabham, get those points in. So we're at the Belgian Grand Prix. In the words of Mike Lang, Lyndon, and for listeners, a quick reminder, we use the book called Grand Prix, a series of books called Grand Prix by Mike Lang as our primary reference, but we also use lots of other references, but that's our primary one. And in Mike Lang's words, he said, "The least said about this race, the better. For it developed into one of the most tragic Grand Prix ever." So imagine if we followed that to the letter and I just left it at that and said, Lyndon, your top 3.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, I have to give a quick recap. Yeah. So in practice, Moss had a crash where a wheel came off. he actually sustained serious leg, nose, and back injuries. So that pretty much wiped him out for most of the season. At the same time, Taylor, also in the Lotus, had a crash and broke his collarbone. Brabham got pole. After 2 laps, the top 7 cars were pretty much nose to tail with Brabham leading. Lap 17, Bristow in the Cooper unfortunately had a fatal crash and was killed instantly. And then 5 laps later, Stacey in the Lotus had an accident, was also killed instantly. Also, I think in a similar location, if I recall.
Yeah.
It was a very sad race, and in the race review, we gave it the due credit, and credit to those people who gave their lives for the sport and for what I believe they love to do. Brabham wins the race, and McLaren comes second. So, yeah, Mike Lang was right. Not a good race.
Yes.
So, Lyndon.
Yeah, no, very somber race, and one where I suppose reflecting on it, just that's why the cars are what they are today. And I think what's his name again? The Scottish driver. I'm thinking
Jackie Stewart.
Jackie Stewart. If I could give him points, I would for
Yes.
what he's done ever since. But what I did do was I just kind of gave third, second, and first all to the same person, which was essentially the whole crew that finished, called it survivors, and just went, look, let's equal the points out to every driver that managed to get through that race, because very sad. A lot of families, and you look at some of the past Grand Prix and everything up into this year. I think it wasn't just the drivers that were impacted. There was, not in this race, but there was also spectators.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you actually look on YouTube on this race, Lyndon? Did you see any?
I did, yeah. I did, yeah. Another one of those.
Was it? There was no footage.
There was some bits and pieces. I can't remember precisely.
Yeah.
What was there, but no, there was. I suppose for me, it was, as you guys have worked out, I sort of took that top sentence: "The least said, the better." So
Yeah, absolutely.
chose not to delve into it in too much detail.
No.
Fair enough. Okay. So for third, I put in Brabham, persisted with the win. So despite what was not a very good race weekend, because there were tragedies before it and then during the race, obviously. I gave, should have actually made them equal, but I don't know why I gave Stacey second and Bristow first. So Stacey, in fact, I should make them equal, but I gave Bristow first. I think I gave Bristow first because he was only 22 and he obviously paid the ultimate price and deserves recognition for his bravery in driving in this dangerous era. I can't change it now, but I've given the 1 and 2 to the 2 guys who passed away.
Yep.
I probably took Mike Lang's comment and didn't like to focus. Like Luigi said, we gave a lot of time to the drivers in our race. And look, for me personally, when I do the research on these races and I get to know the drivers and I go a bit deep into the drivers, it actually gets quite emotional when you read about their deaths. And I kind of didn't want to bring that into this podcast again, I guess. So I sort of tried to focus on the race, and I gave my third spot to Graham Hill. He should have been, and like you got to handle. I think, like you said, Lyndon, these drivers, they had to finish the race. Like they probably would have known exactly what had happened to their 2 compatriots, and they had to just keep going. So I think
they never black flagged them, did they? They never stopped them.
No,
whether it's spectators or drivers.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So they just had to sort of compartmentalise that as much as they could. So I gave third spot to Graham Hill. I think, he ended up coasting over the line and stopping and not doing a lap. But if they'd thought about it better, and he would have been over the finish line and given third. So I gave him my 3 points. Clark's second, 10th to 5th, pretty good. And Brabham just winning from start to finish in the face of a lot of tragedy on the day. And like I said, he would have just had to keep going. And, Bristow was in a Cooper. I'm sure he would have had a bit of a history with him. So, that was my points.
Okay.
Like I should have given Brabham points again, but...
Well, I think the survivors got 18 points, so that's pretty cool. So they're sitting 4th, survivors. McLaren's third on 30, Brabham second on 44, and Moss is first on 50.
Okay.
Well,
Rosa, should we leave it at that?
We might leave
Yeah.
it there. We might take a little break and we'll come back next week for the rest of the TP Championship for 1960.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Bye. We have a Patreon.
Yay, we're a professional podcast now. So it means a lot to us if you are able to support the F1 Time Portal podcast.
For a small monthly fee, you not only get ad-free podcast content, you will also receive special episodes that are exclusively uploaded for our Patreon financial supporters.
We promise at least 2 additional exclusive episodes each month aligned to the decade we are up to in the show.
And you will also be able to make suggestions about any special episodes you may want us to research and present. We can't promise that we can do all of them, but we will consider them.
So if that sounds like an entertainment bargain to you, go and sign up at patreon.com/F1 Time Portal today.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please tell your friends and non-F1 friends alike.
Yeah, and don't forget to rate us 5 stars or whatever highest is available on the podcast platform that you use.
We have a range of social media handles for you to connect with fellow listeners, so look up F1 Time Portal on all the usual platforms.
Or visit us at www.f1timeportal.com or email us at f1timeportal@gmail.com.
We would like to give credit to our primary reference materials, a series of books called Grand Prix by Mike Lang.
We also use many other written and digital references which are in our show notes.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.